Okay, the day is finally here. Hi, everybody. And we tried to do high tech, but I don't think it worked out. I forgot to push one button. But anyway, hi, everybody. Hi, welcome. This is the Katase Red Door mini course, and this is session 1. And my name is Helmut, and I'm here with my incredible, beautiful friends, Laura Philpott, Laura Keddy, and Kay Cordell Whitaker. Hi, Kay. Hi, guys. And the Lauras have been studying Katase for many, many years. And of course, with that, they studied the Red Door. And they are incredible practitioners, have become incredible practitioners, and do a lot of just remarkable work. So thank you, ladies. And Kay, as many of you know, is the author of the Reluctant Shaman, Sacred Link, and the very soon to be released The Weaving book. And she created the Red Door. And today Kay is going to share with us, and let me read the title so I get it right. What is the Red Door and what can you do with it? And before we get into it, a quick disclaimer. We do not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We share the approach of the ancient Katase and pre-flood Egyptian mystery teachings to living a healthy, happy, passionately fulfilled life. If you hear the first time on this channel, or if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button so you won't miss anything coming up, anything that we release. And many people have asked, so there will be a recording of this afterward at this same link. So anybody who wants to watch this later, it'll be right there. All right, Kay, what is the Red Door and what can you do with it? Oh, and if you have questions, put them in the chat on YouTube. We see them and we hope to be able to take about 10, 15 minutes toward the end of the session to get to those. But if we don't, as I mentioned in the email, we have a question and answer session on Saturday, and we go as long as we need to for that session. All right, have fun. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. It's really, really nice to see you and see all these names popping up on the side here. Everybody who's entering, I can see you popping down the side. That some familiar names, which is really exciting. And of course, we are here for the bowl. We're here to talk about our favorite bowl. And this is it, of course. And inside this is both a program and a witness, but I'll talk about that. You'll certainly hear a lot about that through this course, what programs are and what witnesses are. This one is healing the earth. And so when the bowl isn't busy healing somebody or somebody's pet or the garden or something like that, we put this in the bowl. So it just keeps working on bringing healing and healing and healing. And what I'm going to talk about today is this incredible thing. And I spent a lot of years, about 13 years, studying with the Hedicas, Tamano and Chia Hedica of Peru. and they're ancient teachings that they say come from Lemuria, and before that came from the stars. And I've studied with the pre-flood Egyptian teachings that's been all of this has been passed down from mouth to mouth, and mouth to ear, however they say that. Uh, this is the culmination of so many aspects of their teaching, and when you go into the different teachings, you kind of feel and trace back, where did this come from? What is this about? What does this mean to me while I'm standing here on Earth? And everything ends up pointing to sacred geometry. So the ancients had a lot of things, and everything that was in their life and everything that they created, their buildings, their altars, the clothes, their decorations, everything had to do with sacred art, sacred geometry. And kind of pinpointing it down, looking at how the altars were built in both cultures, the pre-flood Egyptian and the ancient Peruvian, which I suppose you could call that pre-flood Peruvian as well, because it just keeps going back. It traces back. This altar building, there's two basic types that the two cultures used. Possibly at other times there were some other ways of making a kind of an altar space, but these were the two biggies. And one is a tabletop. In Mexico, they call that a mesa, a sacred mesa. And that's an altar that's built on the top of a table or a bench. Or it could even be on the floor. They spread a little cloth out on the floor, on the ground outside, maybe this floor in your house, and you sit down either next to it or on the edge of it, and they spread their altar out onto the cloth. They make that formation right there. And both cultures had that way of making an altar. Some altars stay up for a long time, or with the Egyptians, they could stay up with a burial for centuries and centuries and centuries until some archaeologist tears it apart. But the other kind is one that you create in the moment. You're about to do ceremony. You're going to do some special kind of a meditation or special praying, a special ceremony of maybe singing, or contain different sacred objects or substances. With the Hedekas and both the Egyptians, they did not do psychoactive drugs. Hardly ever, only on very, very, very special medicine occasions, because it was considered too strong, and especially for people who were studying, people in the priesthoods, and somebody studying to be a shaman with the Hedekas. It's just too strong on the mind, and it takes control, and takes control of your masks, or your mask can take control of it. And people just they don't think right. They can't think right when they're doing that kind of substances. So those are pretty much forbidden, especially for the students. So anything else that is ceremonial, that doesn't screw with your mind, is something they might engage in a ceremonial way with their praying. So this creation that you make on the spot. It isn't something that you stand in front of. A mesa altar you're standing in front of, or you're sitting next to, or maybe even lying down next to. But these others are a little bigger in nature, and you go inside. It's a formation that you do your ceremony inside that altar space. And the biggest ones that both cultures really depended on, as so many things are built out of, is a circle altar, as pure geometrically as you can get it, with rocks and tobacco and cornmeal and stuff like that you might think you'd find in a primitive culture. So you make that as accurate as you can, because in sacred geometry, that accuracy often counts quite a bit, because those are all energies. They create energies. They create energy fields. So here we have a circle that we're building on the ground outside, or maybe it's inside, it's on your floor, and it's made of little rocks, little ones, and often tobacco and cornmeal. You could use other things too. And a special way of building this, and you walk inside, go inside and stand, or you sit down. Some of those are big enough to lay down in, but most of the time they just scourge laying down because people fall asleep. So this is trying to keep people a little more active and focused and with all their attention. But if you just take a look at the round, there's energy moving. Energy is moving along this parameter. It's moving in both directions, this way circularly and the other way circularly, going through the wood. And then inside the bowl, there's circular spiral energy patterns. And the spiral, some of them are just going round and round and round. Others are going up. Others are going down. Some are kind of cone shaped, bigger at one end, smaller at the other. And then this way, there's lines of energy going back and forth. They're actually spiraling in a really tiny little way, going back and forth, back and forth. So if you built an altar like that, and then you stepped inside it, you have all these different energy forms spiraling around you and up and down. And there's another very important spiral, and it's a spiral that starts in the center, but it goes outside the wood. It just goes and goes. And it's spiraling in a great big galaxy form. And that one just goes out and out and out and out and out. So it has all this action in the middle of the bowl with all these different spiraling directions and shapes and this activity. And they're bumping into the wall, they're reflecting back, they bump into each other, they reflect back, or they absorb, they can change frequencies. And here's this big field with all these energies in it, just going out, 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 out. And right in the very center, this is where the magic happens. It takes the whole thing. Oops, I don't know if I could hold it like that. But right in the center, that's where the magic happens, because as these different collisions go on, there's a subsequent spiral, which is a long, long, narrow, skinny string. It's a spiral, but it's long and narrow. It goes way above the bowl, way below the bowl. And that is the scalar wave. This is this shape and the materials, the dimensions of it, everything is creating a scalar wave, including that spiraling field that goes out like a galaxy. It just goes out and out and out and out. Talk a little bit more about that one and what that does. But this scalar wave down the thread, right down the center, this is the magic of the bowl. This is what you want to try to create. People have been trying to create on purpose electronically scalar waves in order to do a lot of the things that the bowl does, but only do it with electrical power. And they figured out how to do it to a degree, but it doesn't. They're not adding the factor of the geometry into it, so that they don't get all of the effects, but they can create a scalar wave. And the scalar wave is what sends the information from you into the bowl and out to your subject. Your subject can be anywhere. Doesn't have to be in the room with you. Doesn't have to be sitting next to you or touching the bowl or anything like that. Somebody could be any place. They could be on the moon, and they have done those experiments. Radionic practitioners have done these experiments with astronauts and people on the moon, and they were able to make contact and with this scalar wave, especially this type of scalar wave, you can read your subject who's at any distance, any place, and you can send things to them, broadcast down that scalar wave to that subject, and you can collect information back. In that scalar wave, you have the energies going in both directions all the time, up and down, spiraling. So we can diagnose, we can take a peek into our subject, and we're not supposed to use that word diagnose. That's a medical word. It belongs to them. It legally belongs to them. But we assess and define and determine, and there's a whole long class about how to do this determining of what's going on with the whole body. And you can include any kind of medical concept and medical kind of a test and get the results. If you word it correctly for yourself in the bowl, you can find out whatever the body is doing and what it needs. So this is how this bowl manages to do some of the magic that it does. So it can contact the subject. Sometimes we use the word target or subject. Yeah, same thing. You can ask questions. We have a special tool for asking questions, and that's a pendulum. This is the one that we have made specially for the bowl, and it's plastic and metal chain. And you don't put it in the bowl, but it's good to put it over the bowl because you're feeling the field. When you do that, you're getting right into the field of things. So with this bowl, we are asking yes and no questions. So if you put it in that formation, or there are other ways to create a diagram with numbers on it or some other designation on it, and you get the bowl, the pendulum to swing in a particular direction. It's hard to make it do it that way. There it goes. or it's going to go the other way. So it ends up pointing out things that are on this scale in front of you. Usually the scale is yes and no, which is very simple, very direct, very easy. So it depends on the wording. And
You're going to learn a lot more about that on there's the Friday. Laura will be teaching the pendulum.
I can't go into the details of everything here, but that's the beginning of how these things, how this all is all working, how we're putting these things together. So with these incredible fields, how do we know that it does what it does? Well, if you have your bowl near you, bring it in front of you. Bring it in front of you where you can feel it. And I want you to feel this bowl's right here. I want you to put your hand over. Try not to think too much. This is not a thinking thing. This is a feeling thing, something you feel with your heart and your gut. You could feel it with your hands, with the physical senses. Sometimes people smell the field, but you can feel that it changes as it goes in the bowl. That the whole space changes. And you feel outside the bowl, it's very, very different. The reason we discovered this was the very first bowl class that I was doing was in Montana. It was a bunch of years ago. And we had the first batch of them made. We had 10 of them, and we had 10 students. And we had this huge table, and they're all around the table. And we were in this house that's really big. It's a mansion, really. And this room was gigantic. And they had huge glass windows on both sides of this room. And we were up kind of close to one of them. And one of the ladies down near the window was getting really distracted because this huge eagle was coming down and flying around, circling right in front of the window and looking in the window. And she just jumped up and said, "I'm going to go outside for a minute and look at the eagle. There's an eagle out here." So the whole class got up and ran out, and we're looking at the eagle, and it turned out actually there's two eagles flying together. And they were not the same subspecies. They were two different subspecies of eagles flying together, which doesn't happen in normal nature because they're really territorial. And so they kind of, like their own space. But here they are, two different ones flying together and flying around over the bowls. We watched them come in from the east in pairs like this. Mixed match eagles in pairs coming from the east as far as we could see. And we calculated it might be 100 miles that far away. You see these little teeny black dots way out there. And then they were approaching, and they'd fly around and around and around over the bowls, and they'd take off to the south, and two more would be coming. We stopped counting at 24 eagles. And we decided we better go back in before it got too late, and we couldn't finish the class. So we had a whole lot of class left to do. So we went in. We have no idea how many kept coming. But that field, that galaxy field that goes outside the bowl, spreads out at least that far. So you are affecting people that far out. And that field and all the other fields all together as they are stirring around and mixing, the galaxy is going out from the bowl, but it's also coming in. There's two currents, one spinning one way, one spinning the other way. So with all of these different directions and the energies and the energy lines and the scalar wave and what it ends up doing is it collects all the negative energy in its space. It just keeps collecting it and collecting it and collecting it. As long as somebody's making it, it's collecting it. So even when you don't have anything in that bowl, and that's when it cooks the hottest and the fastest and the hardest and strongest, is when it's just totally empty. So that's one reason why we keep one of these guys, the world healer, in there, is because after a while it gets to be kind of a strain on humans and other animals. Their field has gotten very, very clean, and it's just too much of a strain to be in that kind of a field at that speed. It's putting something in there doesn't stop the cleaning. It just slows it down because the bull has more things to work on.
Real quick, Kay, before you go on, it doesn't just collect negative energy, it transforms it. Right?
Good point. Yes.
Like one of the students called it a psychic composter.
Perfect description. Because, like I said, it's collecting it. It's one of the streams is coming in, the other one is coming out. And what's coming out is this purified energy, and what's coming in wants to clean. And so it fills your space with this cleaned up, beautiful, heart-centered, song-centered energy. And it does that, whether it's working on somebody doing healings, or it's working on the garden doing healings, or you've got something like the world healing card in the bowl, or it's totally empty. It's always cleaning the space, and it's always putting this beautiful, peaceful energy into the space. And this peaceful energy really helps people learn how to be more at peace, with less anxiety, less fear, less anger, less reactiveness. The bowl by itself. And that happens faster when you take all the stuff in the bowl out and it's empty. And even though you've put it back in, it's still doing the same thing. It's still just saturating you. We had this one student, he was still a kid, still a teenager. And the room was full of people, and we're all eating and the talking, and he just kind of slipped off into my library, and in the closet in my library, my office, that's where all the bowls are stored. You open the closet door, and it's just lined with shelves on all sides, and floor to ceiling. This is all bowls, all working. And he laid down on the floor and went to sleep. And later, we were looking for him because it's time for them to go home. And we finally found him on the floor in there asleep. And even our cat knew exactly which of all these different bowls we have going for so many different people. They're just all lined up on the shelves. In this case, there were so many bowls going. There was a bunch of them on the floor. Her bowl was one of the ones on the floor. She would go up and lay next to it and sleep all the time. She knew exactly. And when there was time to fix her bowl, I'd take something out of it or put something new, she'd go and start digging and meowing at the bowl. She'd try to get their claws into the things that were in there and pull them out. So on to the next stage. that's pretty much about where it all came from and how it congealed into this form to make this bowl. And it appears that this is a very ancient thing. This is a very ancient shape. I discovered parts and pieces of it in ancient cultures all over the world. The ancients knew about this. This is not the first time this has come to light and been used in humanity. The Mississippi culture in Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago, they had these. They made them out of terracotta, and they didn't do anything. They didn't have any ashes. It wasn't baked clay. It was raw, and they painted it red. And it didn't hold grains or other foods or nothing. It had its own special medicine property and ceremonial properties. So these things, like the ancients say, they never really die. The culture might lose them. That they might be gone in that particular culture, but the universe has this information. It's always there, and it comes right back to the people when it's time, when the people are ready for it. So this is the other part of what I need to talk to you about, and this is the coherence. This is the coherence.
I thought we were going to talk about those tomorrow.
We're talking about coherence today.
The plan was for tomorrow.
Not my paper.
Yes, your paper. Your paper too. We have a big session, you talking about programs, rates, and why the coherence programs are so important. Tomorrow.
So you want to save this for tomorrow?
I would like to, yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot more you can share about the bowl and its magic.
Okay, I shall.
And we're going to get to the Q&A here pretty quick anyway, so
Yeah.
thank you. A bit miscommunication.
It must have been typed wrong.
Must have been.
It must have been typed wrong.
Somebody must have typed
Okay.
it wrong.
Okay, we're going to, whether we're talking about coherence or we're talking about the bowl, there's certain concepts that go along with using the bowl to make it work. And that is, you got to put things in it. Like, how do you know where the information's going? How do you tell the bowl where it's got to send all of its goodies so the subject out there gets better? And what we do is we make what we call a witness package. This is the who to. So you've got a who to, and then you need a what. You need a what? Well, with that who to, you might have, some pictures or some x-rays, or I don't know how well you could see that. We got some teeth here that, somebody's got some kind of tooth problem and they'd like the bowl to be working on that. So this is how the bowl finds what it needs to go work on. You can put that right in the bowl. We can take different kinds of frequencies and numbers and these things that we call rates. And the rates come out of the technology, the electrical technology with their machines, and they've got dials and numbers on the dials. And a rate is where you have set the dial, and that sets up a whole bunch of frequencies and patterns and stuff like that. That's what the rate represents. And it could be a series of numbers. So we could have numbers that look like this. There's a dash in the middle, and just basically 2 digits, maybe 2 digits with a decimal point and another like 0.5 or something like that. And there's whole books of these rates. What rate means what condition or what body part or that kind of stuff. The British do it differently. They have so many dials that their rates are just a long string of numbers with no dashes and no decimal points or anything like that. And it could be anything. And so if you're using the rates, then you've got that information written down, and you could put that in the bowl. And there's 2 kinds of things that you want in the bowl that you might be sending to somebody. Now here, I don't know how well this can be seen. These are 2 little jars. This one is mercury, a mercury filling actually, and this one is lead. And if you wanted to get that out of somebody, you can use the bowl to do that. Remember those currents are always running in two directions at once. And if you want something to disappear out of the body, like lead, mercury, some other bad thing, you can take a little sample, put it in a bottle like this, little vials. They're very, very, very useful. And you always want a very clean one, very, very clean. And you only put this one material in there, and that goes in, that helps tell the bowl, take lead out of that subject. So perhaps we want to do something that is helping. Don't have one of those. Okay, this one is just a little liquid, and this is fulvic humic liquid, which comes from the earth. It's minerals, trace minerals. And you might want to do something like put trace minerals into your subject. It could be your garden, it could be a person, it could be anything. And you could put that into the bowl, and that tells the bowl to send those vibrations, that substance, and create it in the body, do healing with it in the body. Or you could have some other kinds of materials that you might want to put in one of these vials. And that's going to pull things out. The other one's going to put things in. So we have things that go in and things that go out. It gets really, really simple when you just put things in those simple categories. So now that we have all these different goodies in there, let's go to the Q&A.
All right, cool. Thank you, Kay. Beautiful. And to your part about using the red door and the rates, Laura Philpott will be really going into that on Saturday. So, how to put a program together quick and simple and set it up and have it running for somebody. And we are going to Q&A now. So,
Amanda Hilbert just posted a question.
yeah, first, let me say hi again to everybody. And thank you so much for saying hi in the chat, all you beautiful people. So great to have you here and so glad you could join us. You want to go to the question, Laura?
Yeah, I'll read the question. Hey, Amanda, good to see you here. We were just talking about you. All good stuff. When you put materials into the vial, how does the bowl know to add or remove items from the body? So, like, you want the lead out, but you want the vitamin or the minerals in. How does it know to either broadcast or remove?
This is a post-it, little tablet. Got the pencil in the hand. And you can write a very simple statement. You might want to be getting rid of poison, or maybe you want it more specific than that, and you want to get rid of lead that's poisonous. So you tell the bowl to clear it. Clear it. And that's the whole thing about going into the coherence that I was going to say next that got missing in this particular description. Let me show you for a second. This is the program, and we have this opened it randomly. One side is shorter, and this is a description for the bowl to do different things with the body. Some are longer, some are shorter, some are just a couple of words, some are rates, some have both rates and descriptions. And these things go on a piece of paper. It could be that all you need to say would be clear lead. And if you had a substance like some minerals or maybe some iodine or some other kind of this is what we call a reagent here, something in the vial that you want the bowl to send. You might have the rate for it, or you might have the actual product in the jar. And you would say something like, absorb, take in. And you might name what it is they need that you want to put in there. You might have the numbers that mean iodine. And maybe you have a series of numbers that means iodine, thyroid. It can get very, very specific. It can get very, very general. And it depends on what the needs are of the moment. I hope that answers.
That's great. We had Vicky had the similar question. How do you establish whether putting in or taking out of substance in a jar? how do you establish whether it is putting in or taking out the substance in the jar? And so I think, Kate, you said that with you make a statement clear. Yeah. So Joanne, and I'm sorry, I have a little astigmatism, can't read your last name, Joanne. Can you, oh, thanks, Laura. Do you want to read the question, Laura?
Can you put homeopathic nosoids? I'm sorry,
No
I don't know.
sode.
No sods.
No
In a
sode.
bowl to treat a person such as strep or for pandas.
Good question. You can put homeopathic rates in. We have a lot of rates for homeopathics. Most homeopathics come in little sugar cubes, or they come in water with alcohol in the water to keep it from growing bad things, keep it sterile. And you cannot broadcast sugar, straight pure sugar. You cannot broadcast that as something that you want to add into the body. And you cannot broadcast any alcohol. You don't want to broadcast glycine, which is one of the things that they might put in some of these solutions instead of alcohol. You can't broadcast that either because that's like pouring sugar into the blood. The only time you might use sugar is if you want to take sugar out of the body. Say you have a diabetic person that you want to broadcast to, and they've been eating too much sugar, and their blood sugar and their insulin is sky high. You want to get that down. You can write a statement about taking out, clearing out sugar, and you could use the sugar as a sample. Although if you use table sugar as a sample or you use honey as a sample, what the bowl hears from that is you want that exact sugar to be taken out of the body, that substance. And the thing with something like sugar, if you want to take sugar out of the body, there are many, many, many different forms of sugar in the foods. Sometimes our body is making different forms of sugar, and you might have way too much of it. So if you just use the rates for the sugar, use the words or the rates, you could be a lot more general and be able to be more inclusive as a category, sugar as a category. So with homeopathics, the best way is to find the rates and use the rates.
Thank you, Kay. Ooh, Helmut, that's a cool feature.
Question from Jessica. You want to go ahead, Laura?
Yeah, Jessica says if you don't have the materials, i.e., the lead or iron, are writing the messages just as effective, or do you always use physical material whenever possible?
They're pretty much equal in effectiveness most of the time, but sometimes that material is more specific and it works better. For instance, oh, I don't have one. Okay. I thought I did. There's little tiny cups like on a fancy table spread. You'll have these little baby bowls like toys that are for salt. People put salt or some other kind of a condiment, so everybody gets a serving with this little tiny baby dish. They're perfect for the bowl. Absolutely perfect. Or you could use one of these jars, one of these little vials. Say you ate something that was making you sick and you'd like to get over it in a hurry. because maybe you're getting very nauseated, or your eyes are going screwy, or got this massive headache, or rashes are turning up, or whatever it is. If you still have a sample of that, even if it's just some little bit, all it takes are these little tiny bits, something left on a plate in the sink. Scrape it off, put it in one of those bowls, put it in the jar. If it's got water or wet in it, it's still wet. Don't put the lid on unless you're going to be taking it out of the bowl within a few hours, certainly before 24 hours, because it grows mold. It'll grow mold real fast, especially with these energies. It'll grow mold real fast. So if it's wet and you want to save it, you got to let it dry before you put the lid on it. And if it's wet or liquid, if it's a whole liquid, like liquid minerals or something, you could put very, very tight jars, maybe even seal it with Scotch tape. You put that in the bowl, and then you make a written statement to clear out the substance in the vial or the bowl. And it'll start to be, within 1 or 2 minutes, it'll start to have a relieving effect. And depending on what it is, how long you waited before you put this in, the state of the health of the person when all of this is happening, it could be completely resolved within minutes or within hours. It kind of depends. Sometimes it's a long-term allergy that they have, something more complex going on in their body. Might take a day or two. But that's how we would do that. Good question.
Okay, next one is from Polly. Hi, Polly. Laura.
Do we need to be in a focused or special mental state when we set up the bowl? Ooh, great question.
Mm-hmm. That's part of what happens in the class. That's why one of the reasons you're learning from taking this kind of a class, because this is how we start the class. We learn to get ourselves calmer and more at peace and more quiet, less mental, jabber activity. Try to get the fear, just to let the bowl just melt the fear away. If you're angry about something, anxious, it'll just melt away. Just let it happen. Get calm. Find your center. Find your song. If you've had any of the other teachings, then you know what that is. The song is who and what you are on a cosmic scale. This is who you've always been. And it has a feeling to it. And you could find that feeling. It's very calming, very full of love. And when we're there, we can feel better. Just like when I had you try to feel the field, there's a whole bunch of exercises in the classes about sensitizing yourself. We all have this ability to feel this. We're just not paying attention in the right kind of way. And so we want to get into that state where we're paying attention in this song kind of way, in this peaceful feeling, a feeling way. And when I put my hand towards the bowl, I can feel it. It feels kind of like it's thicker, or there's a bubble there, or it feels full of energy. It can even feel kind of tingly. So when we do all these things, we're learning to assess things with the pendulum, how to make it do the stuff without our masks taking grab of all of our old programming, just grabbing our whole body and our attention and our mind, and we're doing things too much from our head, too much from your thinking, too much from your programming, your masks. Then you aren't going to get a right answer. But if you get calm and feel, you'll get a right answer. And that goes for anything that you're doing with the bowls. It's very, in that way, it's ceremonial. This is a kind of ceremony. Every time you sit down with a bowl and you want to do something with it and figure something out and do something with your pendulum with the bowl, it's like a mini ceremony. And it is quite calming and energizing. Most people, for the regular amount of time that they're spending with all of this, they feel energized when they get up and go away and go to do something else. They feel refreshed and energized and calm and happy and peaceful. So, hope that helps. Got another one?
Last question for the day.
Laura P., you want to take it?
I don't have my reading glasses on. But
Oh,
I'll try.
okay.
Often
Yeah.
I put things in the bowl and forget about it. How often do I need to refresh the statements / items in the bowl?
Well, that depends. Sometimes we do put some things in there that we want to go long term. We want them to be giving a particular vibration or vibration of a substance, or helping to keep our body, our mind, our heart all coordinated. And we want to just leave it in there. They could stay indefinitely, really. Whether they're needed after a certain period of time is another thing. So when we learn about all of this during the rest of the class, you could just go and quickly check. Once you've learned about the pendulum, you just go over to your bowl and see if something need to be changed. And you can get a yes or a no. Is everything okay? You just ask different questions that make sense for what you need to find out about how to take care of the bowl. There may be items in there that are all cooked. They're cooked already. And they need to come out because they're just wasting space and energy in there. And once you take that out, the rest of the things that are in the bowl have more of a chance to make a difference. They get more percentage of the energy and the time and the space of the bowl for doing what they need to do.
I think an important thing to mention is that if you leave things in too long, they're not doing anything bad, because there's a program in the broadcasting card that just kind of turns them off when they're no longer needed.
And the programming card is something that fits in here. This is defining who the target is. You might be the target. So it's all your kind of information. This is what we call a witness package. And there's some symbols on there. And one of these is that do not overcook.
That's great.
So it turns things off. And that makes it really, really convenient. You don't have to worry about anything causing any kind of a harm. You follow the protocols, there's no harm. No harm whatsoever. It's hard for the bowl to do something that would be harmful. Sometimes we've put things in the bowl one after the other through time. Just keep adding. We've got about the rest of the stuff's in there. We just keep adding to it, and sometimes they don't work together as well as you would have thought. Their instructions are kind of contradictory to each other, you could say. And that will decrease the efficiency of your broadcast. So that's something that you would want to check for. Does that need to be taken care of?
All right. Beautiful session. Beautiful. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, everybody. We will share on Saturday. We will share how you can get your own bowl and get started, and how you can get support and help with getting started and all of that kind of stuff. But if you cannot wait, please contact Laura Ketty. She'll be happy to talk with you. And thank you again for joining. Oh, if you completely new to all of this, you can go to our Red Door homepage at catastrophereddoor.com and can check out a lot more and a lot more videos. And of course, on YouTube, right here where you are right now, there's a lot of videos about the Red Door and what people have done with it. So you can keep busy exploring and learning. But we're going to go into more detail on how to get started if that's what you want to do on Saturday. And I think I covered everything. Any thoughts, Laura's, Kay?
Well, I'm just absolutely delighted with all of the messages and all the different people, and this is a beautiful class, beautiful opportunity, and I want to thank everybody for making this happen. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Hey, Helmut, did you open up the Discord channel for this class?
I don't want to get into it because I
Okay.
don't have the link, but we'll
Okay.
we'll communicate that.
Great.
All
This
right.
is wonderful. Thank you all for being here.
This is going to be
Yeah, it truly is easy, as easeful as Kay is mentioning. You can do amazing things very simply.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Hope to see you tomorrow. Same time, same station. Love you.
Love you all. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.